This is Jeb Puryear from Down the Buffalo, and you're listening to Native Americana Audio Cafe.
Jeb, can you see this thing?
I see it. It's the old transistor radio.
Yeah, and it was in the trunk of a 1967 Newport Chrysler that was sold to me in 1982. I was going to college.
Nice.
And it had bear power, you know, like this truck or this Chrysler got hit by a bear dented it and didn't get hurt, but it had a bear dent in it. And it's a magical transistor, kind of like the principle, if you take a seashell and put it to your ear, you hear the ocean.
Right.
If you put this to your ear, you hear Native Americana Transistor Radio Audio Cafe coming kind of off the grid in America, and you're on it today. You know, your name came on it. So welcome, Jeb. Thanks for coming to the cafe, all the way from Nashville. Tell us who we are, what we're doing here.
Oh, I am. Well, my name's Jeb Puryear. As Keith mentioned before, I play in a band called Dawn of the Buffalo, and our band has produced a number of music festivals, but mainly Finger Lakes GrassRoots Festival in upstate New York. And then we started doing the ones in North Carolina and shot down to Florida. And a long time ago, when we first started, I did like a lot of the day-to-day work, the book bands and rented porta johns and all that stuff. And but how I met Keith was my friend Shane Lanphier lived out in Arizona. And when I was 7, I think, me and my brother Jordan took a bus ride out to Arizona. It was the first time I ever been out in the seen mountains or anything like that. And so they had your cassette tape with Indian Car on it. And we listened to it all the time. And I didn't really think anything of it. And then a couple years into booking the festival, I was thinking about it. I think my brother Jude said, you know, you really should try to get Keith Secola in. And so I was at work and I had your cassette in my desk. It was sitting there. And I looked at it, it had a telephone number on it. And I said, well, what the heck? I'm going to call him. So I called and you answered the phone. And so I was like, well, we could definitely work with him. So, and then we've been having you out ever since, and became fast friends, and we play a lot of music together, and so on and so forth.
Well, one of the coolest things has happened last year. You produced, I think, the music on my stage, you know, or on my set as the artist, and we kind of co-produced it. But you definitely came in a hand of letting it unfold, you know, letting Native Americana. I think it happens on that stage, you know, Jeb, some magical thing.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. And yeah, it's really, well, part of Keith gives me credit for producing, but Keith's so friendly, you know, anybody with half an instrument, you know, he's like, come on. So I'm like the bad guy, you know, it's like, nah, it'd be better if you knew the chords and stuff like that. But
actually, we have so much fun, and it's a collision course. I say it's we call it a hoop extravaganza to have Native dancers and Native singers and storytellers and a rock band, and it's a really unique combination. And what I think is unique, Jeb, is that Native musicians kind of came there, and the sound kind of also, you know, helped. How do we communicate with the mainstream audience to be entertaining, you know, yet to keep the community? I've seen that in your stages.
Yeah, it's a really interesting line to draw when you're talking about there's communicating for your own self, like you want to get something off your chest, and then there's communicating to a successful end, meaning you want to change the perception of what's happening, or maybe you've seen something that's happening in the world that maybe some other people aren't aware of, or you want to bring light to a subject, or all the plights of society and so on and so forth. But it's like, well, you're just going to bash them over the head, and then sometimes that'll work for a certain percentage of folks, and then other times you got to be entertaining, and then that just eases in. And then the other thing is like just being charming, and charming and disarming, and which I feel like you excel at, and yeah, so it's, as far as, there's a lot of people that do a lot of communicating, but if somebody comes on too strong, that they're not going to get too far in moving a person's awareness sometimes.
I think it's a metaphysical thing. Let people come to their own truth, allowing people that freedom to, like, okay, let me understand what truth is, and I'll come to it. And I think it's a better form of communicating.
Yeah, we'll meet at the truth, instead of like, I'm the truth, and you'll meet where I'm,
Jeb, one of the things I trying to, in letting the artist define this genre, Native Americana, I think there's an outer ring of it, like when Johnny Cash sings Neil Young's Pocahontas, or any of his Bitter Tears, or some of your songs or Tara's songs that fit this genre of the earth. Do you see any correlations at all?
I see the correlation of where it's from and where it's going, but as far as like nuts and bolts, but to me, I think it all comes from the same spot, and hopefully it'll, it's all trying to head in this, not to be too corny, but the earth has everything we need on it. And that sounds really simple, but it doesn't seem to be on the forefront of a lot of people's concept of where we're at and what we need. They feel like we need all this stuff, and it's interesting going through this quarantine thing, because you sort of get back to like, well, what do we really need, and everybody's doing without as much toilet paper as they think they need, or whatever, or so on and so forth, and it just goes on and on. So, and then also like, oh, this is like happening to us, like, so to speak, and then but most of the hardships that we've dealt with down through the history have been self-inflicted, racism and all the, all these things throughout history. If you look at the great tragedies or whatever, most of it's self-inflicted. It seemed like that would be easy to give up,
This concept is that we know a lot about these barrios of music, and we've talked about this before, about the Celtic barrio and the Caribbean barrio, but that had a lot of influence on American music. And the third barrio that we know very little is a Native American barrio of influence on American music.
Right.
Any thoughts?
All I know is when certain people do that chanting, I can't stop crying, like right away, which is pretty, not like sad crying, boo-hooing, but just like, I get overwhelmed. Like, it's, and I think you know, I think a lot of that tonality has seeped in, like, but it's subtle. It's subtle, but I think it has a lot of it seeped in, you know, over the years, especially, you know, down in Louisiana or whatever, or where, you know, or in the old time fiddle music you grew up playing, there'd be certain warbles and stuff in the tune and whatnot that I think are influenced by that chanting and but it's not as straight ahead as maybe like people would look at, like the blues influenced the rock and roll or whatever. But it's, to me, it's in there. But
Yeah, and that's all I'm asking artists to reflect a little bit. Let's shine a little bit of light into our thoughts, but mostly it's what we're writing in the songs, the lyrics, the notes, and things like that. That's what I hear when I hear
yeah,
your music. You know, when you write a song, how
yeah,
do you write a song? Do you write lyrics first, concept, guitar riff?
I I've sort of done it all kinds of ways. You know, sometimes you just be walking the grocery store or whatever, and you get something in your head, and then other times it'll start with a guitar, and then love with the guitar just because I happen to sit around and play guitar a lot, you know, and so you just get in that. But then sort of somewhat a little, you know, some people they write around certain phrases a lot, or whatever, they'll think of a title or just one idea, and then you're like, okay, that's going to be a song. Or but then the real thing after that is like getting to the point where you it's almost like getting a work order. It's like, okay, well, there's the song, but you got to fill it, and you got not to ruin it, right? And you don't even know what it's about, but you have this, the 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 picture is there already, even though you can't see it and you don't know what it's about. And then you got to go figure it out and make it good at that point, you know, and try not to lose it. I mean, that's pretty esoteric sounding, but like if you're sitting playing the guitar, and a lot of times it just sound like guitar playing, and then at a certain point, there's something in there. It's like, oh, that means something, and you don't know why it means something, and then you try to figure out, well, what does it mean? And then it's got a feeling, and it's got like juice. You don't even really know where the juice comes from, but that's sort of what it's like for me. You know?
That's a great description. And talk about Dance in the Streets a little bit.
So Dance in the Street is the title of the last record we made. I feel like human beings are on an evolutionary path towards it's slow, but we're getting better at being humans. And so it kind of starts out from the first caveman to awake, realize there's more at stake, to the final person who spoke, declare they're fully woke, you know. It at some point, you know, we were just not very cool, and or like the Vikings, they didn't perceive that the monks on the shore were a part of their tribe. They just went and friggin' slaughtered them, you know. And so there's another thing is like to like no one would do that to their own family. And then so that's the other part of like the whole movement is to get the feeling together where we are all a part of the same family. Of course, a lot of people promote all that all the time, thankfully. And so we're just kind of like doing our part best we can to promote the same thing, because it's what I think is actually happening. So then another part of the song, you know, it's the arc of history, you know, is it's hard to perceive, you know, because our lifespans are short, which is another thing that I truly believe, you know, people get very disheartened easily at the pace that things move at, because each human being's lifespan is actually very short. And so you want things to be better, you know. Oh, and you certainly don't want things to get worse. There's not, you know what I mean? There's hardly enough time for things to get better. And then, unfortunately, like as a graph grows and trends, it wiggles along the way, you know. So this is some things we have to endure on top of a bunch of other stuff that we endure. The song is Dance in the Street, and the video is Dance in the Street as well, I guess.
From the first caveman to awake, realize there's more at stake. To the final person to have spoken, declare I'm fully woke. Makes for an instant report that our lifespans are short, and it's hard to perceive the curve we see in the arc of history. And the power that allures and is sure to corrupt us must constantly be clean with peace, love, and justice. The media's been bought, the legislature's been bought, and our complacency's been bought by four walls, a couch, and trashy TV. It's time to dance in the street. Speak in your mind. Our hearts are pulsing a beat. Dance in the street. Knowing it's time to get on our feet. It's time to dance in the street. The poor push to the cold as our rights are being sold with the ascent of a dismal flame, like the tale and shame of a monopoly game. Change of rule, we had better stand before there's nowhere left to land. Doomed to history's repeat. It's time to dance in the street. 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 Tides of fate, watch ashore, ship of fools we've seen before, hurtling through space on a ball. What do they want? They want it all. With mortal reams of ammunition and a killer's disposition, they emit a tinny tune with little soul, with a chorus of control. From misguided to sinful is the range. It is their minds will have to change. For the display, the way, and a fire to inspire empty hearts of poignant flood. Metaphoric Jesus blood. Strike up the band, hit the beat. It's time to dance in the street. It's time to dance in the street. It's time to dance in the street. Speak in your mind. It's time to dance in the street. Knowing it's time to get on our feet. It's time to dance in the street. And if it's possible to achieve what I fully believe to be the actuation of saviors, incremental improvement of human nature's behavior. I don't have to be greedy. I hope you can see that sometimes I am, but I try not to be. Don't want to be jealous. I hope you can see that sometimes I am, but I try not to be. Don't have to be violent. I hope you can see that sometimes I am, but I try not to be. And if it's impossible and all hope of love lays dying, even if we failed, like least fail while trying. On my feet, it's time to dance in the street. 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 It's time
tell people about this process, this culture camp and maybe the festival a little bit.
Well, the festival started, well, this was going to be our 30th year. And so that's a long time ago, even for someone as young as me. No. Metaphysically, it's just like projection of tons of hopes and wishes and like successful musical reality meeting like society reality, and getting music to be a bigger part of life, you know. And there's certain places where music's like a big part of the culture. Obviously, native culture, you know, old time music, you know, Zydeco, obviously Rastafarians. The music is a big part of their world, and that's the way it's always been for me, you know. So it's working towards that, and then just getting the music that we loved. And it's got 4 stages, about 15,000 people show up, and it's got this feeling to it that's really, you know, I've been to a lot of festivals, but it's just got a really special feeling. And so the festival's been fantastic, and like, you know, that's why we know each other. That's why we know like lots of folks, like good people that you would never have met, maybe, you know. And so it's like a meeting place as well. And then the music's awesome. And then there's just like the simple pleasures of like hanging out in a park-like setting, listening to music, drinking beer, or what, you know what I mean? It could be as simple as that. And then it's just like intense as passing by a stage and like somebody's really, like one time Bear Fox was on stage, and she said, now I'm going to sing a song. You know, I forgot exactly what she said. She was going to heal, you know, people that are troubled her. And so I figured I better stop. You know, so, you know, I better be in trouble, you know, whatever. And it was just so good. And it really did have like quite an effect, you know. And so there's some like incredibly powerful things going on, and then there's some show business, and then there's some just a lot of people walking around, so you get to look at a lot of folks, and then there's just really cool performers that we've known throughout the years, and then new ones that we get to meet. So between the whole thing, it's really quite a setup.
Yeah, I want people to know about it, and all the artists that we've talked to, a lot of native artists, all have revere and talk about it. I mean, this would have been the 30th one. It's hard to miss this one. Hey, Jeb, it's kind of like, but it's reality.
It's a little painful. It's painful to think about. There's a little like kind of a lack of valor and just sort of running and hiding or something like that sort of like subtly bugs me. Like, I don't know whether that's real. I don't know if it's realistic to be able to avoid something like this. And then there's like the whole notion of like what's gonna happen, how's it gonna work out, you know, is very, it's just hard to say. Obviously it's confusing because no one knows. And so, and then there's the propensity to want to chew on it with your brain, and because when things are unresolved, you want to figure it out. But there's obviously a very long time between now and when it gets figured out. So it's trying to relax and get involved with some other projects that can be done, and so on and so forth.
How about you? Have you felt played music much since the start of it? Writing any songs?
I haven't been writing too many, but you know, we got some stuff to work on. You know, I was doing a little recording. You know, and also just I'm in a group. You know, and one of the luckiest people in the world. You know, I'm in a great spot and have some recording equipment and fool around and stuff like that. So I definitely am totally grateful for that. So I'm not complaining about it, but it's just been it's been an interesting process.
Yeah. How about a little riff on your guitar, a little song, a little half song or something? It's a weird computer generation going on, but we'll record it and we can edit everything anyways.
Okay. Well, let's see here. All right, here's a little song. I don't know whether it come across this phone very well. We'll see what happens. Was walking in the pale sun, fighting the blues. When come up a huckster salesman in a flat stew. Ask what you need from which there's plenty to choose. I said I don't want nothing that I can use. Don't want a ball cap that looks like a line, or a popcorn maker that tells the time. I don't need the truth to sex as a trick, or a jewel encrusted poker stick. Don't want a machine that tells me how to breathe, or a motor cycle that breaks the leaves. But if you're really asking me, I'll tell you what I need. Yes, I need a love at my side that makes a pair to share the pride, deeply adore, one to care for, where reflections on each other flat, where when you do what you do, it seems to matter. Someone to share life, laughs and cries. I need a love at my side. This extra back and forth is hope beginning to fade, knowing you cancel something that can't be made. His eyes struck a tone that says, you're on your own. Yes, I need a love at my side that makes a pair to share the ride, deeply adore, one to care for, where reflections on each other matter, where when you do what you do, it seems to matter. Someone to share life's laughs and cries. I need a love at my side. There you go, Keith. And the crowd went wild.
You know what? It's a real subtle thing that happens, but even in the spite of being over the computer, the intention of a song is still there.
Yeah.
In the weird latency of cyber air, that intention still remains there. And thank you for bringing me to the present tense in someplace else. You know, like that's good. You know, and I guess it's sincerity. Everything comes down to that. You know, being sincere, enthusiastic, and giving it out. And we really appreciate your music over the years and what you've done and what you do for people. I've seen it, you know, firsthand. You walk your talk. You're the real deal. And so Native Americana loves you. So thanks for coming by today.
Oh, no problem. It's a pleasure. And I would do anything for you.
maybe Tara could do a culture camp, 1-day culture camp via Zoom or something like that. Maybe you guys could. I don't
Yeah.
know. I see Miko posts things up like that, and maybe just the
Yeah.
instructor, getting up and saying, "Hey, we're gonna learn the chords to Indian cars here," and
Right.
like,